I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending. Remember, this is the Black Touch Media listening party for an ode to my father, a man. This was created by Mr. Ronald Whitfield Sr. It was put in association with Michael B. Whitfield Productions. Before we get into it, I did want to just kind of talk about what I know about the piece. I've known Mr. Whitfield for quite a while. He we actually went out to it was a breakfast, and we went to it was a Denny's, worst Denny's I've ever been to, but really one of the greatest experiences of my life. Just him sharing this piece with me, and it was really just at the time it was in its infancy. He'll talk about it later. I don't want to steal his thunder, but just the story of how it came to him and what it means to him, it was moving. And I remember I feel like at the time he just had committed it to memory. There might have been a sheet of paper, just a crumpled up sheet of paper that he kind of taken out of his pocket every now and again to make changes. I know he had already let me know before today that some people who had listened to it had reached out to him already, just how it has changed their mindset, and not only their mindset, but their self-perception. As I said, the creation of this piece, it was a joint effort between BlackTouch Media and Michael B. Whitfield Productions. I will pass it over to Michael Whitfield so he can talk about the production process. Again, taking things from the crumpled up sheet of paper, taking it from the dream to the tangible form that everybody can listen to. I do ask that everybody go ahead and stay muted just to make sure that we can hear our keynote speakers. Again, we are curating the chat room. So as Michael Whitfield is speaking, if you have a question about the production process, or as Mr. Ronald Whitfield is speaking, if you have questions about the inspiration, and when you hear just like specific lines, things he's talking about, if you have any questions about that, go ahead and type it into the chat. We're collecting those. So actually at the end of the presentation, we can actually go over those questions and get you guys some answers. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Michael Whitfield. He was the production arm. He's the guy who was in control of taking it from the page to everyone's ears.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good to see y'all smiling faces. I'll go through this spiel again. So most of you are pretty much well familiar with what I do. I'm a creator um, with no subtitles, both on music, from scoring to sound design. I engineer, I produce. But that's enough. That's enough about me already. I want to shine the light on Mr. Ronald. Wait, hold on. Let me go back. The great orator himself, Mr. Well, I'm gonna say Uncle, Mr. Uncle Ronald Whitfield. I'm gonna lighten it up for y'all a little bit. Yeah. So just to kind of give you guys a walkthrough, and I don't want to spend too much of everybody's time on the process that I do, because it can be kind of boring if you don't really understand. You kind of got to be a engineer or a music audio engineer geek to kind of really understand what I do. So to shine the light on Uncle Ronald, he called me up from, I don't know if he was in Texas or if he was in DC, and he said, nephew, as he says, he called, every time he calls you, it's with that sense of urgency. Nephew, I got something on my heart. I got something that I want to get out to the people. And then he started talking to me. Mind you, Uncle, I ain't gonna throw your age out there, but it's up there above 70, right? So he mentions a guy to me by the name of Jay-Z. So much to my surprise, when he mentioned Jay-Z, all kind of thoughts kind of came through my head. It's like, this guy is well over his, over 70, over his 70s. What does he know about Jay-Z? Right? But to my surprise, he knew quite a bit about Jay-Z when he mentioned him to me. He mentioned to me just some of his lyrics in regards to his repurposing of the word. And I think we're let me make sure we're all, yeah. So he mentioned the word nigger, right? Quite a bit in both his rhymes, in all of his publishings. Uh, he uses the word nigger, and not just Jay-Z, but um, a lot of rappers around, just a lot of rappers in whole. They use the terminology. Uh, we've I like to say my generation. We've kind of tried to repurpose the word as a term of endearment, but Uncle Ronald came to me and he said, nephew, I don't know how you feel about this, but it's something about that word, that bothers me in the long and the short of the story. Um, and he said that I wanted to, first of all, he mentioned that he wanted it to be rapped. He wanted to get someone to rap the song for him. So he wanted to find a young rapper, and maybe I produce the music for him, and that young rapper takes his words and he kind of sits back as a ghostwriter. But as I heard him recite the words, and as he sent over the words to me, he sent me like little video, like little screenshots of, I don't know if he had the lyrics written out on a piece of paper, but he sent me pictures of, I don't know if it was on a napkin or a piece of paper. He'll probably straighten that out for me. I'm gonna say it was on a napkin, maybe, that he had it written out and he screenshot it and then he sent it to me. Then he recited it to me, which was amazing because he had already knew the words by heart. So when I heard him saying the words, and after reading the words that he had, I thought, Unc, maybe we shouldn't have it performed by a rapper. I think it would lose its zest. I think it would lose a little bit of its sting. I thought it would be a great idea that maybe he recited it as a poem in the idea of like a Prince EA. I mentioned a guy by the name of Prince EA, who's a well-renowned poet in this day. And I thought it would be a good idea if he, jumped out there and recorded it, maybe made a video to it. Um, and at first he was kind of a little unsure about it. Well, nephew, I kind of wrote it as a rap. I wanted it to be a rap. But being the modern thinker that he is, he succeeded. And you said, you know what, nephew, I'll go ahead and do it. Let's set up some time. And this is an amazing thing that he's done. It's also kind of bittersweet too, because it's one of the last like memories that I also had of our late Uncle Kent as well, because Uncle Kent came over during the recording process and acted as his manager as they both sat on the couch. Man, it was a joy just seeing them back there and just seeing Uncle Kent put Uncle Ronald in his place a little bit as the little brother. But it was an amazing process. He came over, um, he recorded it, he knew it line for line. And what the most incredible thing is even nowadays you get so many artists and writers that come through to perform their pieces in this studio on this mic. And oftentimes they come over, although they'll say they are prepared, they really aren't as prepared as I've seen this guy be, right? And mind you, this guy, I'm not sure, maybe he can clear it up for me. I don't think he's ever recorded anything professionally before, but Uncle Ronald came over. He didn't waste any time. I think he was all in here all of maybe 30 minutes. His first trip here, um, he was with Mark. Mark came with him. And as Mark guided him through the room into the studio, and he got up on that microphone and looked at the paper maybe once. And after I press record, the words just began to flow, just began to flow seamlessly. There was no hiccups, no mess ups. Me and Mark sat there, Mark sitting on the couch, we looked at him, and it was one take, which is funny, right? So if you think of one take, the guy that he was that kind of made him, the guy that made Uncle Ronald want to do the piece, Jay-Z, is also known for doing his songs in one take, right? No pen, no pad. So I thought it was quite interesting And ironic that Uncle Ronald got up, did the exact same thing, one take. What y'all were hearing on that audio was his one take, right? One take, no looking, pen and pad, a glance, and that was it, right? And me and Mark looked at each other, and I'm the kind of guy that I don't just look for I don't just look to just piece anything together. I like to capture. I capture audio, but I think of it as capturing magic, right? And no, most times you get those goosebumps when you hear something that's just perfect that you don't want to touch. When he recited the poem, I felt the goosebumps. I felt the vibe, is what we call it, the energy. Mark and I looked at each other and was like, "That's it right there. We could go home." And that's exactly what they did. They got up. That was a wrap right there. I said, I'll just let you know whenever this is done. I'll put the music piece behind it, and that was it. So, but being the perfectionist that he is, he called me back and said, "Nephew, it's one word in there that I said, and I just feel like I could say it a little bit better." So he came all the way back in town just to put that one word on that take, y'all. And we finally got it done. Um, I respected that because I take that same approach as well throughout my music. Um, I don't like for something to just be mediocre, even if it's just one word. The perfectionist in me would make sure that I go back and get that one word right. And so um, I respected him doing that, coming back in town to put that one word on there. And so that was that piece. That was the first section of it. The second section was the part where I got to have a little bit more fun. Um, is basically, if you guys listen, you'll hear the piece once it's played back. The way it was recited, it was like a alley oop. If anybody knows what an alley oop is basically when someone tosses the ball up close to the rim, where all the other athlete has to do is just jump up, grab it, and slam dunk it. It was that easy, right? He had already painted the picture. He had already made the movie. I could see the imagery. I could see everything come to life just from each line that he spoke. So it was nothing for me to really just sit down, lay down some soundscapes, some sound designs to just match and mirror. So my hands are really off of it. I mean, it's his idea came to life. I think it came to life perfectly. Um, I think it will reach a lot of people. I think it definitely hits its mark. I think it's a brilliant piece by a brilliant man. Uh, I think the piece um, will outlive, you know, all of us on the call. I believe it's something that will be um, like an archaeological dig for people to find from ages and ages on. You know, they'll be able to look back and say, "Hey, this was a memoir from a guy by the name of Ronald Whitfield at this time, and this is what he was speaking on." So I think it's amazing. I'm proud of you, Uncle Ronald, for coming in and doing what you did. I'll pass it back to the moderator.
I think that you spoke to really with what you said about the archaeological dig. I feel like an ode to my father, and I had this conversation earlier in the week. We were talking about something going viral, and I feel like for something to be viral, it's a fad. It's something that's funny today, here today, gone tomorrow. But this piece, it gets in your heart. Um, Now we are listening to a sample. We're gonna I'll show you where you can get the rest of the piece, because I feel like this is we'll see what I mean once we listen to it uh, about what Michael was just saying about how it gets in you, it gives you the chills.
They stole me in chains from my beautiful and rich homeland. Iron shackles round my feet. Lord, and iron shackles round my neck and round my hands. Head to feet, all in a row. Males and females chained down in a row. Sailing many sunrises and sunsets, over great waters we go, to a far away place they call home of the brave and land of the free. But I would soon come to know, and history will show, they wasn't talking about me. Bearded on, bought and sold as livestock at something they call a slave auction. Cutting cane, chopping and picking cotton under that blazing hot Dixie sun. Can to can't with that hoe in my hand. But I ain't no nigger, I'm a man. Hey, I ain't no nigger, I'm a man.
Now the rest of it is available for streaming wherever you listen to your music. But I don't want to take up any more time. You guys listening to me. I see we got some good questions coming up in the chat. But I would like to go ahead and hand it off to Mr. Ronald Whitfield Sr.
Thank you so very much, Shamar. This is truly a great day for me. Going on maybe close to 2 years now. I've looked forward to this time when I could launch my message, and it is a message. I can't thank all of you enough for your contributions and helping me. Young people, I don't know anything about Zoom and internet and Amazon at all. And so I want to thank all of you that jump right in there with your support and your help. Without you, Mike, Shamar, Mark, Shawnee, Paulette, Leah, and others, this day never would have come to pass. So I want to thank you for it, because this is more than just a poem to me. It's a message. Michael spoke about my being able to just go ahead and recite it without reading. Is because it came out of my heart, and it comes out of my heart. That was the reason that I went ahead and listened to him when I thought that maybe an actor or a rapper or someone should be the one that should perform my piece. But he convinced me that since it came out of my heart, I should be the one that should do it. And I thought about that. That would be asking a lot for any actor to perform it the way I feel. So I want to thank each and every one of those that helped me, and for every one of you that came to my party, launch party. The message is not to be enjoyed, but as you listen to it, and I hope that each and every one of you do, as you listen to it, you pass it on First, I want you to understand it. It's a message to honor our ancestors and to inform and enlighten this generation. And as Michael said, every generation that follows this one, as long as the world stands. It all came about, I'm sure someone will probably ask this question, how did it all come about? Let me give you a little heads up. It was really strange how it all happened, started anyway. It wasn't just one night. It was in I remember the year 1997. I walked out of my house one day and I was standing beside my vehicle waiting on my children to come out so that I could take them to school. We lived in a cul-de-sac street, on a cul-de-sac street in a mixed community, whites, blacks, Latinos, and we were all classified pretty much as middle class. While I was standing there, a young Hispanic boy came across the street and he spoke to me. Good morning, Mr. Whitfield. I said, hello, Junior, how are you? He said, I'm fine, sir. Thank you for asking. Very polite. And he said, is Mike home? Now, Mike was one of my sons. Yeah, I said to him, yeah, he's home. He'll be out in just a moment. He's getting his school supplies. So this little boy, he must have been about 9, 10 years old. He said to me, you know, Mike, that's my nigga. I was speechless. It just floored me. I didn't know what to say. I didn't need to ask him, what did you say? Because I understood what he said. But I was completely shocked that he would say that. I grew up, well, I was born in 1945, so you'll know how old I am. And I came through that era when segregation and desegregation was all in play. My dad had always taught us that if anyone of any other race call you a nigger or even say the word nigger, you hit him in his mouth. Win, lose, or draw, you let him know that you will not be disrespected without him paying a price. But here I am standing there, and I guess I must have been in my early 50s, and this young boy standing beside his vehicle with me, looking up at me, smiling as if he'd said something that he was very proud of and I should be happy about. But I was totally confused as to what to do or what to say. I don't remember whether he left with his parents or whether the kids came out. I don't know what happened after that because I was so focused on what in the world had just happened. And I don't know if I said anything to my kids on the way to school, but I couldn't get it off my mind what he had said. I didn't really know what he meant. My nigger was a word that plantation owners said. So I didn't know what he meant by that. But I thought about it for some time. Very little else was on my mind. And I finally realized that something terrible has happened. There's been a terrible thing that has taken place. Somehow the word nigger is no longer offensive. It's not a term that's deemed derogatory. It rides the wind. And I realized, right, wrong, or indifferent, I blame the rappers for it. Because as I thought about it, why is this happening and what has happened? And why was this child standing there feeling completely at ease at making a statement like that. And I realized then that the rappers had caused it. Now, my family and I we were of the Pentecostal persuasion religiously. So the only music we listened to in the car was Christian music. And we didn't go to movies, so we don't know what was played on this silver screen or shown on the silver screen. So I was pretty much out of touch with what was going on. But I began after that day to begin to pay attention. And I listened to what the rappers were saying in their lyrics. How they were degrading women and how the word nigger was being spoken as if it was something to be proud of. I looked at what was being shown on the silver screen and how the word nigger was no longer whispered, especially the black movies. It was from start to finish. So as I pondered and thought about it, I wondered what could be done to reverse this, make it offensive again. What could be done to wake this generation up? And in my thinking, I thought, well, since the rappers, I hold them responsible for it, for making the word so common, then perhaps I can find me a rapper that I can give him the idea that we are not niggers. A nigger is an animal. It's a subhuman animal. If I can get him to understand that and he work his magic and his charisma and rap it, then it would turn everything around. From what I could see, the rappers had the ability to influence this generation, our generation. I'm saying our generation by Black kids street. They seem to be saying whatever the rappers say and thinking it's cool to do what they do. That's why you see them dressed the way they do, with the pants hanging down and so forth. They're doing what they see the rappers do. So I thought if I could find me a rapper that would understand, I didn't have a message then, I just had one line, one thought. I ain't no nigger. They could just get that point out and make it cool not to be a nigger instead of making it cool to be one. But I was unable to find anyone that would help me. And in thinking about it, after some time, I began to write. And I thought I would write the rap myself, and then perhaps by then I'll find someone that could perform it for me. But I was lying on a bed in my sister's house and in her family's house. And in the middle of the night, words began to flow down to me. And I didn't have pen or paper, so I just grabbed my phone and started typing it into my phone as the words were coming to me. And it was as if someone from another generation was speaking to this generation. And I recorded it. I spoke to Michael, as he told you, and told him what was on my mind, what was on my heart, and the words that I had, and the message. It was a message then. And I wanted to get it out to this generation, to honor our past generations and to inform them. Hopefully, it would turn them around. Well, Ode to My Father, a Man, is just that. It's a message honoring our ancestors who the last word many of them heard before the noose snapped their neck was nigger. It was a derogatory term. It was an insult. Uh, they were taken from Africa, not as human beings, but deemed animals, not lions, tigers, or bears, but they were a new species called niggers. And that's the way they were treated. And I think the only thing worse than being called a nigger, an animal, is to be treated like one. And that's what they did. And somewhere along the line, things got turned around. And now you can hear the word in the wind. Riding down the highways or down the street, you can hear it being blasted. Car radios. So my piece, my message, my poem is not merely for entertainment, but it's to arouse and awake this generation that it's not cool to be called a nigger or to call your brothers or sisters a nigger. Because a nigger, to call them a nigger is to call them subhuman, inhumane, and animal. And we are not that. O.J. Simpson, he made the statement, I'm not a nigger. And Jay-Z took issue with it and wrote a rap. Rich nigga, poor nigga, still a nigga. Light nigga, dark nigga, still a nigga. House nigga, field nigga, still a nigga. Jay-Z bit into what the old white bigots wanted him to buy into. And he sold it to this young generation that we are niggers. We are not niggers. Our father was not a nigger. He's a man. He was a man, and we are men. And if we are not proud of who we are, if we don't say who we are, then who's going to say it? If we agree with what they said, we call one another niggers and animals. What does that say about us as a people? So my piece, my poem, my message is to encourage the young people, especially of this generation and all those to come, to have self-respect and lose the word, lose the word nigger, because there's no nice way to say it. There's no complimentary way to say it. It's an insult. It's an insult to those to hear it, those that say it. So my piece is for that purpose. And I pray that those of you that will hear the entire piece, hear the message, not just enjoy it, but pass it on. Sit down and explain what not I, but what this person from that generation was saying through me. And as you listen to the message, it starts out with, they stole me. Someone gave me those words and I passed it on. So as you listen to it, realize that there's a message coming through me to you. Pass it on until we are at a place where the first time I shared this with one of my nephews, he said to me, Uncle, I've always used that word, but in an endearing way. He said, but after I heard your piece, I'll never use that word again. That's what I'm after. That's what I would like to see. There's no place for the word itself. If you'll remember, those of you that are old enough, if you can remember, there was a time when that word was not spoken openly. The halls of higher learning, in the courtrooms, they didn't speak the word. If it had to absolutely be mentioned, it'd be recognized by the N word. Good, decent men wouldn't let the word be spoken out of their mouth. It couldn't roll off the tongue right. So let's try and put it back where it belongs. That's my message. That's my piece. And I want to thank each and every one of these young people that helped me to get the message out. And I pray, as Mike said earlier, that for generations and generations and generations to no end, they'll be affected by the message. So God bless you all, and thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and spend this time at my launch party.